Can Rickey the trucker retire at 60? That's what we're going to talk about here today at the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. Probably cut this up to a couple different episodes because a lot going on with our man Rickey the trucker from Illinois. So subscribe because you're going to want to see what we come up with. And then I'm going to follow up with Rickey with Joe, the 35-year-old. Can Joe, the 35-year-old, what does he need to be doing for retirement planning? We'll do that in another episode here as we go down. But let's start with Rickey the trucker. Got a good email from Rickey asking, hey, I got some things, and because I put an email out of my to my subscriber base on my email, and I said this, what are you going to be doing for 2019? Blah blah blah. What are you going to do? Prepare financially? And Rickey emailed me back, and I said that's pretty interesting to me. Let me use your information if you don't mind. I'd be happy to change the names and all that. He said that's fine, and so he gave me his basic of his grunt work of what he's looking at for his retirement plan. He says, man, it'd be nice to retire at 60, and that'd be in 2 years for him because he's probably looking at 62 to 63. And I said, well, I'm not so sure about that. Let's take a look and see where we're coming. So let's dive right into this, my friends. And we're going to go over the Right Capital software, which I use. And we're going to look at the balance sheet first and foremost. Did I say subscribe? Can't remember. So if I haven't, subscribe. And then, of course, thumbs up and comments. So let's see what was canceled this right here. All right. So the first thing we do is we go to profile when I'm looking at doing these retirement plans for people. And essentially, we're cutting out some of the I don't care if he's got $1,000 in checking. I mean, I care if he's paying me for this, but in this regard, I don't. I don't care if just the small potato stuff we're not going to look at. But his investment portfolio consisted of solely his 401k, of which he has Vanguard Prime Cap, which is, I think he says 75 to 80%. And then Vanguard Wellington. So two wonderful, wonderful funds is his investments. That's the entirety of his investment portfolio. About $315,000 or so in Vanguard 401k. He's got a loan. He's got one of his sons. He has a college loan that he's finished up at college for. It was still $26,000 on it. I can't remember exactly what his monthly payoff was, but I remember he said he'd like to have that paid off when he hit retirement. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. So right now he's got $26,000 of the balance. I have him paying $500 a month with an interest rate of 5%. And I think that's pretty close. Might not be exact, but I think that's pretty close. He has no debt. He sits on a pretty long number of good acres in Illinois. $350,000 is the ranch that he built. He and his wife put on there, and they own it outright. And it's worth $350,000 in Illinois. The property taxes are not low, so $5,000 in property tax with $1,000 in homeowners insurance. And that's Illinois. So that's not a cheap state to live. Now, it's nice for a tax perspective is Illinois, just because there's not much tax, but for property taxes, it's quite large. So that's what we're looking at here. And that's the entirety of his net worth, my friends. So his entirety of his net worth, we go back to the dashboard, we're going to have $642,000, small amount of debt, $350,000 is property, $312,000, $15,000 in 401k. And that's it. So you take his assets minus his small liability, and that's his net worth, about $642,000. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing extraordinary. Just regular, good old fashioned working man and his wife. All right, let's keep going down here. I'm going to show you the information that we're looking at. His income, again, as a truck driver, he makes $100,000 a year, and we're going to call his wife Regina, and she makes $35,000 a year. Now, frankly, I can't remember what she does, but Rickey hasn't made $100,000 a year his entire life. But he has made over six figures the last few years. But before that, he wasn't making that. So his Social Security will not be reflected. This is where you got to know your Social Security information. This is not a true reflection of your Social Security. So Rickey gave to me his detailed Social Security earnings. And this is what we're looking at, $100,097. And I just typed these in here. And you can see going back to 2005, he was making, 14 years ago, he's making $68,000, whereas now he's making $100,000. So you can see that the bulk of his earning career, he wasn't making $100,000. In fact, he's only making $100,000 in 1 year or so. And so that's going to be a problem for sure. Now with Social Security, remember the last 2 years don't go into the system yet. And so these won't be flowing in there as yet, but don't worry about it. It will be reflected in Social Security. And if you go back to 1990, he's making $25,449. But remember, when you're looking at your Social Security statement, it's so critically important to understand what was said in 25,449 in 1990 is not 25,449 today. They do their indexing, their inflator, if you will. Now, I don't know off the top of my head what that is. Well, the system's going to calculate that for us. But remember, just because you're making 25,449 in 1990 is not the equivalent of making 25,449 today when it comes to your Social Security. I think actually a lot of people misread that. And for Regina's salary, we're just using a simple estimate, based on 35,000, and we're going to take it early at 62. Presumably, we don't know yet. We're going to run these numbers and see. Savings, Rickey's trying to up his savings, so he's put 15% into his 401k. And he's getting a match about 3%. So 18% of his salary is going to his 401k. I mean, that's real money that's going in. Regina's not doing anything to her 401k, and we're not having anything saved for her. All right, so expenses, we have $4,000 a month in pre-retirement living expenses. And then when we go to goals, we're going to have $4,000 a month for retirement living expenses. I'm waiting on Rickey to give me a little bit better guidance on what that number would be. I think $4,000 is probably on the high end, frankly, because he has no mortgage, but we'll just run with it. Again, we're messing around to play with these numbers to see what we look like, and then we'll go from there for sure. But I think $4,000 is probably the high end, but we'll start with that as a delay the foundation, and then we'll build around that. Healthcare costs, we got $4,000 a year for both. Now, they're not quite on Medicare. So Medicare, you got to factor, you take your trusty calculator and you factor in what's your Medicare premium. So your Medicare Part B is 100. We're going to say for simplicity, 135 times 2. That's 270. And then for Part D, we're going to say it's 35 times 2 is 70. So 170 plus, so 70 plus 270 equals 340 for both Regina and Rickey. So that's $340 a month. And then we're going to say their Medigap, Medicare, not Medicare Advantage, or Medigap, Medicare supplements, we're going to say is 150 each. So that's going to be another 300 plus 340 times 12. That's about 7,680 right there in healthcare. So you got 300 for Medicare, for both of them for Medicare, Medigap policies, Medicare supplements. That's 300, 150 each. Then you got roughly 350 between them because of the various Part B and Part D. And then we're going to have copay and co-insurance. So I think that for 8,000 a year is pretty much spot on. I really do. So we're going to use that. We're going to say 8,000 a year is what their healthcare costs will be. We already talked about income. We talked about savings. We talked about expenses, and we talked about goals. So the goals, he wants to retire at 60, does Rickey, and she's going to retire when Rickey does at 58. Now, there's a big thing in here is they're thinking about maybe one of their kids lives up in Wisconsin, so they're thinking about maybe liquidating their property, moving up there. But if we need to get down in the details of that, we certainly will. Right now, I'm not too concerned with that. I just want to see where the numbers lay. All right, so you ready to see what Part 1 looks like for them? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to retirement. And all we're doing is basically using this information we got right there and seeing what the numbers look like. Can they retire at 60? And what you'll see here is that does not look good. We got a 2% probability of success. Let's change this over 2%, and we're going to see what the numbers look like. So that's not what we want to see. We don't want to see 2%. Now, I take issue in a lot of degrees with some of these numbers here, but I don't want to see 2. I can tell you that right now. That's not what we want to see. So let's see why that number is so low first and foremost. And the first thing we're going to do is we go to probability, go to confidence, and see when we're running. Yeah, we're running out of money pretty quickly here. So we're running out of money essentially at the age of 66. So within 6 years or so, Rickey's running out of money. And we don't want that to happen. Now, running out of money and running out of income, two completely different things. Remember, he's got a house he can do a reverse mortgage on if he wanted to. Neither of his kids live in his state, so he probably will move at some point. So we really don't want to necessarily do a reverse mortgage right out of the gate. But if he were to stay where he's at, that's not looking that great, where he runs out of liquidity at 66. So remember, you can have a 0% probability of success. That is just your liquid assets, but you still have ample income coming in from pensions or Social Security or reverse mortgages or annuities or something like that, but you just have no liquid assets. So having a 0% success rate and running out of money are two completely different things. You got to keep that in the back of your mind. But either way, I don't like that at all. So that's not a big fan of that. So let's just see what we got here. And we're going to go to income, and basically his income. Yeah, look at that. So that's the shortage that he has, those reds. are his deficits as we go forward. The purple is his Social Security. So lots of deficits. So that's not what we want to see. Now let's go to cash flows. Again, this is when he has him retiring at 60, at $4,000 a month. So his cash flows the next 3 years are pretty good. 135, 136, 137, because we're inflating that 2% a year. Expenses are pretty low. 60,000, that's $5,000 a month. 61,000. Actually, let's just see where those expenses are here. Yes. Okay. There he goes. Yeah. Look at that. So his total expenses are $5,000 a month. We got living expenses at 4,000, housing at 6,000, and then the debt is another 6,000. So his total expenses are $60,000 or $5,000 a month. And yet his income, is well, I tell you what, we got, spend unsaved cash flows. So what we got to do. Let me pause this for a second. I want to go. What I did is actually change his cash flows where he was actually saving his net cash flows. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. And that changed a little bit, not a huge amount. See these net cash flows, 31,000, 31,000, 30,000 right here. Because he has income flows well more than his expenses. So he's got 60,000 is going out for his homeowners, his healthcare, and is going out for his income his homeowners, healthcare, and property taxes, as well as his living expenses. But he's got 135 coming in, so he's got 30,000, almost 32,000 of surplus cash flows. Those got to go someplace, and he's saving those. In fact, we talked about that. So when I changed that over to spending him to saving, it did change his analysis a little bit from 2% to 7%. Not nearly what I'd like to see, but it did add a little bit of help to that for sure. So they got 15,000 is planned savings. That's what he's putting away. His taxes are pretty big. Let's take a look at taxes. That seems pretty high to me. So let's see why the tax so high. And we're gonna go to tax plan. I bet they haven't updated the form yet. No, they haven't. All right, so they haven't updated it yet. All right. No, okay. So they haven't updated the tax forms yet, which isn't shocking to me. All right, so let's see. 120,000 of wages, tips, and salaries. 120,000 is total income. AGI one. Why is it only 120? Oh, because we got her retiring. Hold on just a sec. We need to go back and adjust her retiring because we want. Oops, I want to go to cash flows, income flows. 135. Why is that showing in the tax 120? We got 135. So why is that showing the tax 120? Distribution. We're gonna go to details. Why are you only showing 120 there? I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, let's keep going down. So we got 24,000 standard deduction, 24,400. Oh, it's a state tax. That's what it is. Oh man, I'm not sure why it's showing 120 as opposed to 135. That's odd. But either way, that's what it is. You got your state taxes too. So the feds are 12,493. Oh, the FICA. What am I talking about? That's what it is. So I was wondering about the taxes. Man, where's that tax? That's what it is. You got your taxes, your FICA taxes. Let me show you what I'm talking about. That's what it is right there. So you got your taxes. You got tax payment 28,257. Federal's right there. State's right there. And FICA. I was like, why is that tax so high? I said, the Fed doesn't tax that much. The FICA. That's where the FICA is double your freaking state tax. So anyway, so at the end of the day, there's nothing to do about it. They're paying that tax. So they're saving net flows 31,743. So what we want to do here is go to accounts. In 2023, they got 486,000 in Rickey's 401k, and they got 33,000 in a taxable account. That's what they're living on. All right, so that's what they got to live on because they haven't taken Social Security. And let's see, what we're adding to accounts right there. We're adding 18,000 to the 401k, 15,000 come from Rickey, 30,000 coming from the employer. There shouldn't be much. Yeah, there you go. So 2023, they start tapping into their taxable accounts to live on, and that's gonna be a problem. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So here they got in 2023, they have no income. So the only money they have is they're gonna have a gift from someplace. So their expenses are 74,000, but they have no income. Well, that money's got to come from an account someplace, and it's going to come from their taxable account right there. All right. So we see balances. They have 100,000, 475 in their taxable accounts, but they have to take $74,000 the following year to live on. And so the very next year, their taxable account is down to 33,000, and now the following year is zero. And that's at 61 is when they start tapping into their 401k. So when Rickey's 61 years old, he's going to have to start tapping into his 401k to live on. Withdrawals from accounts. Yep, there you go. Until Social Security kicks in, and then you'll start seeing less and less of withdrawal. But at the end of the day, it still doesn't look good. So we're gonna have to play around with this. Bear with me just a second. Confidence, yeah, it's still pretty bad. Even when I reinvested those net surplus for the next 3 years, it still doesn't look good. All right, so let's take a break. We'll come back to part 2. And we'll change some things around and see if we can't make this look better. Right now, it doesn't look good. No other way around that. So, Rick, if you're watching, don't retire yet. Let's make sure we find a better way for it. So, stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.